Hello guys, welcome to today's video. Buckle up because we'll be looking into Africa's deadliest war, a war that at its height involved 9 African countries and 25 armed groups. The war is officially known as the Second Congo War, but its complicated alliances and death toll has led many to call it Africa's World War. If you'd like to see more content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, turn the notification bell on so you don't miss out on future uploads. The war that began in 1998 and ended in 2003 is known as the Great African War. It was and remains Africa's deadliest war, with estimates of up to 5 million deaths. The estimate includes 2 million deaths caused directly by the armed conflict and up to 3 million caused indirectly. To understand the Second Congo War, you have to look at the First Congo War that had ended in 1997. The seas for the bloodier Second War were sown in the first one, and the issues fought for were the same. So let's take a quick look at the First Congo War. We covered the Rwanda genocide in a previous video. The conflict and its consequences played a big role in both Congo wars. After the 1994 Rwanda genocide and the victory of the Tutsi RPF, Hutus fled to neighboring Congo, fearing retaliatory attacks. They fled under the cover of French army to UN camps set up in the DRC, then called Zaire. These Hutu civilians were mixed with armed Interahamwe militias. The leader of the RPF and vice president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, asked the international community to separate the unarmed civilians from the armed extremist militias as they entered the DRC. His requests went unheeded, and both innocent civilians and extremists were admitted into the UNHCR refugee camps at the border. Over 1 million Hutu refugees fled into Zaire. The Hutu extremists and their leaders regrouped in the UNHCR refugee camps and began cross-border attacks into Rwanda before retreating into the DRC. The corrupt Mobutu government refused to do anything to stop these attacks and in fact covertly supported them. This angered the newly formed Rwandese government. The Mobutu government had supported the Habyarimana government, and its army was hostile to the RPF, Rwanda Patriotic Front, which now controlled Rwanda. Another concern for Rwanda was the Banyamulenge, a population of Congolese Tutsis that had lived most homogeneously but peacefully in Congo. This group, fearing another ethnic cleansing by the Hutu extremists that had settled in the region, began preemptive strikes against the refugee militia and Mobutu's army. The Rwandese army also began attacking the Hutu camps near the border. As the Interahamwe, that is the Hutu militia, fled westward, many Hutu refugees opted to go back to Rwanda. The new Rwandese government did not carry out any attacks on these civilians, and they settled back into their villages. Things were different for the civilians that fled with the militia to the west, with reports of indiscriminate attacks on women and children amounting to massacres. The Rwandese government still denies those claims. By this time, the RPF had been joined by anti-Mobutu revolutions in Congo who opposed his corrupt and authoritarian regime. These revolutionaries were led by Laurent Desire Kabila, who had led a small revolutionary group in South Kivu for over 20 years. Uganda also joined the alliance. The motivation for Uganda's joining the alliance was the fact that the DRC had been used by armed groups to attack Uganda before retreating into the DRC. Sudan-backed groups like the infamous Lord's Resistance Army and the Allied Democratic Forces had wreaked havoc at Uganda's border with DRC, and Mobutu's government had refused to deal with the menace. Angola also supported Laurent Kabila's forces for the same reason. UNITA, that is the National Union for the Total Independence of Angola, an armed group that caused unrest in Angola, received support from the DRC and had camps in its country. Still, Angola's role in the First War was minimal compared to that of Uganda and Rwanda. All these groups joined forces and formed the Alliance des Forces Démocratiques pour la Libération du Congo, or AFDL. 3 other Congolese revolutionary groups joined the alliance. The alliance began its invasion in October 1996. During the war, AFDL fought the Congolese army Hutu militias, Serbs from Bosnia hired by Mobutu's government, and other soldiers of fortune for Angola, Togo, Belgium, and France. Mobutu had also armed the Hutu militias in eastern Congo to supplement his disorganized and badly paid national army. These were the same militias that had escaped Rwanda after committing genocide, and this made his allies uncomfortable with supporting his government. His calls for assistance from former allies, the USA and the international community, fell on deaf ears. Most African heads of state viewed Mobutu as a Western puppet, so none came to his aid in the First War. The CIA had helped install Mobutu in a coup and had supported his regime, despite its rampant corruption during the Cold War era. In the 90s, most African states were pushing for more autonomy from the West, so Mobutu had few allies in the region. That would change in the Second Congo War. A year later, the rebels entered Kinshasa and replaced Mobutu Sese Seko with Laurent Kabila. The First Congo War ended in May 1997, and the seeds were sown for the Second War. Mobutu fled to Morocco, where he later died of prostate cancer. Peace would not last very long in DRC, and a little over a year later, another war started. This proved to be longer, deadlier, and had even more convoluted alliances. When Laurent Kabila came into power, he owed the Ugandans and Rwandese, so some of the seats in his government and army went to them. Adding to these, Congolese Tutsis had played a big role in the AFDL's leadership, so many held offices in his new army. This made the Congolese citizens view him as a puppet of the Rwandese and Ugandans. To shake off this image, Kabila fired the foreign officials in his government as well as the Congolese Tutsis, like his Rwandan chief of staff, James Kabarebe. He also refused to do much to stop the Hutu militias in Congo from attacking Rwanda and insurrection groups attacking Uganda. He even began supporting Hutu extremists covertly to weaken the Tutsi faction in his government and shed his puppet image. This meant that the goals of the two countries' support of the 1996 rebellion and subsequent war had not been met. As Kabila stoked tension among Hutu militias and other refugees in eastern Congo, rebellion broke out on August 2, 1998, in the town of Goma. Almost immediately, Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi offered their support to the rebels, and the Rally for Congolese Democracy (RCD) was formed. Kabila's ineffective leadership had caused large sections of his army to defect to the rebel side, including the famous 10th Brigade, now led by the recently fired James Kabarebe. Laurent was left with an army mostly comprised of very young soldiers recruited during the First Congo War, most of them teenagers. They were disorganized and posed no threat to the advancing rebels. Because of this, his government resorted again to stoking ethnic hatred against refugees in eastern Congo. Calls to kill the refugees were broadcast on national radio. Civilians in the region began killing each other indiscriminately, further destabilizing an already volatile region. This did not slow the rebels. On August 4, the RCD rebels hijacked planes from the airport in Goma and flew them to the west of Congo to the Kitona base near the capital, Kinshasa. The small base was taken over as more rebels were flown in. Up to 5,000 rebels were flown in from Goma, and some of the base's defenders also defected to the rebel side. In 2 weeks, the rebels held the Inga hydroelectric dam, which supplied electricity to Kinshasa and Matadi, a port through which most of Kinshasa's foods passed. By late August, this combined force of rebels and mutinous government soldiers began marching on Kinshasa, and it seemed like the capital would fall as they had done in the First Congo War a year earlier. A significant difference this time was the support Kabila's government got from other African states. On 20th July 1997, the presidents of Zambia, Namibia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Zimbabwe, Central African Republic, Gabon, and Mozambique signed a joint communique pledging support for Laurent Kabila. So this time, before the rebel troops could reach Kinshasa and overthrow Laurent Kabila, they were attacked in the rear by the Angolan and Zimbabwean armies. These governments provided much-needed support in the form of soldiers, tanks, and air support to the new Kabila government. Heavy fighting continued between both sides until December, when the rebels decided to abandon the Kitona airbase. They stole other planes, this time from Angola, and flew their remaining forces back to Rwanda. After this, there would be no large-scale battles in the war, but guerrilla-style conflicts continued, especially in the north. Fighting had also been happening in other parts of the country. Uganda had created a rebel group, the Movement of the Liberation of Congo, MLC, which it supported exclusively, although at this time it still supported Rwanda's RCD. The two countries' alliances would crumble as the war dragged on and their interests in the DRC clashed. This is part 1 of the second Congo conflict known as Africa's World War. I'll post the video on the second part of the war soon, so don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss that upload. See you guys next time.